Well, I'm still in Cambridge. Yesterday was busy with the truck documentation, basically. The plates are coming from another province because that's where this new company is registered that I'm gonna work for. And their IRP department, you know, because it's gonna be, of course, an international license plate. They were asking for all kinds of documents, and so I was in between the financial company, the new employer where I'm gonna work, so we were like exchanging hundreds of emails. But finally everything subsided, calmed down, and I found time to study this big pack. Mostly I looked through two books. One is just a generic Mack truck manual, and then there's another one for the engine maintenance and the transmission and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, they did not give me the manual for the radio, which sounds, you know, like, hey, there's nothing. But that radio has a built-in satellite receiver, and it has a Bluetooth, and it's very confusing even to see how to power it on and off. You know, it uses different principle. Like, for example, you have to double tap the switch instead of like what I'm used to. It's like totally different operation, right? You have to get used to it. So it would be good to have a manual. I asked the salesperson. He says, "Oh, it should be in the main manual, your truck manual." And I took a picture, and I sent it to him, and it says, "For radio operation, see the vendor supplied documentation." What vendor supplied documentation? Because on the radio it says Mack. It's a Mack radio. But anyway, I bought a notepad, and I spent this morning at Starbucks, and I just wrote down some pointers for myself. And I thought, you know, if someone wants to learn more about Mack trucks and what they recommend to do, so this is a video for you. If you're not a technical guy or gal, and if you're not interested in truck operation, basically pause this video and go get some coffee or something. But anyway, so this is just for myself and for everybody who's a driver or who wants to be a driver. Now, first of all, first 3,000 miles, they say you're supposed to check brake and clutch adjustment. That's what I started with. And check U-bolts in suspension, and check wheel alignment. And the dealer here says they have a full list, like 3-hour procedure, which includes oil change, and the manual specifically for this 2015 truck says that oil change is no longer required after 3,000 miles. I think that's like the old standard, but I'll probably do it anyway, because with the winter coming, now it's October, I think it might be a good idea just to make sure that the truck works well in winter, because 3,000 miles, you know, that's like 3 or 4 trips, you know. I'll probably have it sometime in November, so it would be a good idea. Anyway, engine brake will not work until the oil temperature reaches 131 Fahrenheit. You know, that's good to know. So you have engine brake, you're driving, and let's say your truck is still cold, so turns out the engine brake will not work until you reach that temperature. That's something interesting. Now, also on a CAT equipped truck, right? They always said, don't idle, don't warm up too long. Just basically start the truck, and while you're going around doing your pre-trip inspection, like, you know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5-10 minutes, that should be enough to get the engine, like the preliminary heating up. And they always recommended to warm up the engine by moving, like, you know, by applying the throttle lightly with light load instead of just standing. But whereas these guys with the Mack, they say after starting the engine, wait till the temperature, the coolant temperature, reaches the operating range, which is 170 Fahrenheit minimum, or 77 Celsius, and use 1000 to 1200 RPM for the warm-up. And they have all kinds of warnings there that engine you know, damage can occur if you start moving too soon. Like, what? The only exception here, it says if you are like bobtail or unloaded, basically with the empty trailer, right? They say you can do 1 minute idle and then move slowly, start moving until, and then the engine will warm up, okay, but with light throttle application. But if you're loaded and you expect, like, you know, move heavy load, they recommend basically stay put until the engine warms up to 170 Fahrenheit. Alright, and also when you stop, I know this from the CAT days, allow the engine to cool down and idle at least 3 minutes. 3 minutes after driving, when you stop, let's say at a truck stop or something. Alright, cold weather. So they recommend to drain fuel tanks and filters to get rid of water. How do you drain fuel tanks? I don't know if I have the tap in there. Like on my International, I didn't have a tap. I had to do it at a dealer. Use a small amount of kerosene as anti-gel. This was in a truck manual. They say it's okay. And a driver I know that uses this. Of course, they say your fuel mileage will go down. Temp as start. There's a feature called Temp a Start. Basically, my truck is equipped with a block heater. And when you turn the key, there'll be like a little spiral picture comes on, amber, you know, yellow light, and you should wait till it disappears when it's cold before starting the engine. Okay, yeah, and again, to move the vehicle, start the engine and wait till it reaches the operating temperature of at least 170 Fahrenheit. Okay, and then I just reminded myself here about the clutch, that do not depress the clutch pedal fully into the floor except in the first gear and in reverse, because that will activate the clutch brake. Like the very last, I think they said like basically 1 inch or something, or 26 millimeters, 20 millimeters of the pedal movement, that's the clutch brake, which stops the transmission from turning. And when you just use the clutch, just depress it, you know, partially, slightly. Always use normal double clutching procedures when making lever shifts. Never slam or jerk the shift lever to complete gear engagements. Only depress the clutch slightly for shifts above gear 1. Do not fully depress. That's what I just wrote for myself. And quite often I'm not sure how to call this. In Russian it's called what? Рычаг переключения передач. Like the big lever that you shift. I call it shifter. Now finally I made a note for myself. Shift lever. That's the technical term. Shift lever. Okay, axle locks. So I got 2 locks. First of all, there's a differential lock, IAD, interaxle differential, and then there's something like DCDL, which is driver controlled main differential lock. So they recommend to, when you are in slippery conditions or snow or mud or whatever, they say start with IAD, just the differential lock, which is I'll say lock, unlock. The regular position is unlock. So move it to lock, and then you don't lose any, you don't have to decrease your speed. But if that's not enough, then you apply this DCDL, which I think is basically 4x4 full locks. And with this one, you cannot drive above 25 miles per hour or 40 kilometers an hour. And there's a whole bunch of buttons there on my dash. And do not use DCDL on steep grades, because there's a danger that the rig would jackknife. And how to engage? Yeah, just flip the switch and release the throttle slightly, and then engage. And when you release the pedal, that's when this lock applies. And the same procedure is for disengaging. Basically, flip it back, release the accelerator, and push it again. And IAD will be pretty much instantaneous, but this DCDL thing, they say it can take up to, I forgot, like 1 mile or something to disengage fully. Alright, warranty. So it turns out I got 12 months basic warranty and 36 months on transmission, driveline, axles, differentials, cab structure 24 months, frame and cross members 36 months, and engine 24 months, and major engine components such as, you know, camshaft, cylinders, crankshaft, manifold, etc. 60 months. So basically 36 is for transmission, driveline, axles, and frame and cross members. That's why I'm thinking that it's best to sell this truck, you know, after 3 years. Okay, fog lights. That's one thing I did not know, you know. I got fog lights, and how you turn them on? When you turn your headlights on, you gotta pull that switch, the knob. You pull the knob, and that activates the fog lights. You know, I would never guess it from looking at the dash. Now, air pressure buzzer was driving me crazy these couple of days. I tried to, you know, start the electronics, and I turn the key like towards myself, nothing happens. Like, you know, ignition, not ignition, but power on, you know, in the counterclockwise direction. Nothing happens. So I turn the key fully as if to start, and right away this crazy buzzer starts. And every time it, you know, very annoying. And I said, why? And I was thinking, why? And here in the manual they say the buzzer will sound when the air pressure is below 65 plus 5 psi, which is pretty high. So basically, if you lose a little bit of pressure, if the truck sits at an angle, each time you start the truck, it'll be annoying as hell. And then here they say that when idling through the night, if you need to idle a long time, you must be aware of the emission system doing a routine conditioning cycle. So basically it starts by itself, and it might increase the RPM to like 1050 or 1400 RPM. And I just basically noted this so that I don't get scared, like why the truck would all of a sudden brrr, you know. So it's the emission system has this autopilot which activates when you idle too much. And they say when filling up with DEF, because this is going to be my first time I'm using a DEF fuel, and I mean DEF liquid and DEF tanks. It's not like diesel, you cannot top it up. Basically you must leave some space, because this stupid thing expands when it gets cold, and it needs the air space, it needs space to expand. And also it's very corrosive. They were like underlining everywhere, warning, warning. If this DF stuff gets on wires, it'll destroy wires, like electric wires, metals, not all kind of metals, but they said some metals. So basically keep it away from metals, skin. It's very corrosive. Oh, and usage, I was curious, like how much DF do you use? I think I got like 25 gallon tank. No, not 25 gallon. I think 15 gallon or something. Or 18. So 1 gallon is good for what the manual says, 225 to 300 miles or more. So basically 300 miles, so 10 gallons, 3,000 miles. So basically a full tank, because of course it's not fully usable, right? So I'm just thinking 10 gallons, just shoot for that number. 3,000 miles, and my fuel tank's 117 gallons, so basically probably what, I don't know, 200 gallons, maybe less. So I don't have to fill up the DF tank each time, just probably every, what, I don't know, second or third or fourth fill up with fuel, which is good. Okay, oil level, well, must be close to full or between add and full. Okay, now CB radio. It's kind of funny, you know, I was looking at the CB manual, and later on I'm gonna show how basically set up your radio for the first time. Might be of interest to people that never operated a radio. But also in this booklet they give you commands, or they call them 10 codes, because they always are preceded with number 10. 10-4, 10-3, 10-9. That's what people use, like cops and fire you know, departments. And truckers use a couple of them. I remember I used them a lot when I was in towing business, you know, operating a tow truck. But I didn't, there's a whole bunch of them, and most of them people never use, but I just thought I'll tell you guys, you know, some funny ones that you can use when someone is annoying on the air, and you want to basically, you know, tell them to stop talking. So for example, oh, by the way, channel 19 is 27.185 megahertz in US and Canada. 27.185 megahertz. Now here's the codes. 10.3, stop transmitting. 10.6, busy, stand by. Like, basically, I'm busy, I don't want to talk to you. 10.6. 10.9, repeat message. So I think you can probably disrupt someone's communication if you keep saying 10.9, 10.9, repeat message. Or he'll drive you crazy because he'll be saying the same thing. What? You didn't catch it? 10.9. Okay, 10.11. You are talking too rapidly. So if someone is, 10.11, 10.11, and then you can throw in 10.3, stop transmitting, or 10.9, repeat message. That'll confuse them for sure. Now, 10.28, identify your station. Basically, who the heck are you, you know? If someone is giving you some kind of advice, you say 10.28. Like, if he says nothing, or she, you know, like, you don't have to listen to them because they don't want to identify their station. 10.28. Okay, 10.30. Does not conform to FCC rules. So if someone is swearing, you can say, hey, 10.30, buddy. 10.62. Unable to copy. Use phone. That's another good one, you know. If someone is, you know, asking you some stupid questions or something, you know, you just say 10.62, basically use phone. I don't understand. 10.91. Talk closer to the mic. So now we already have a list of very good ones, you know. 10.91, talk closer to the mic, right? 10.62, unable to copy. 10.11, you're talking too rapidly. And 10.3, stop transmitting. Beautiful. Oh, and then the last one I wrote down here is 10.94, which means give me a long count. Give me a long count. It's basically what, like 1, 2, and the guy counts to 100. I don't know. But these, few people use these in trucking, so you are guaranteed to confuse a whole bunch of operators, as they're called, you know, or monitors, radio monitors, people that use radios. If you use these 10.3, 10.6, 10.9, 10.11, 10.28, 10.30, and I think my favorite is, I don't know, what's my favorite out of these? Repeat message, identify, probably, yeah, 10.28, I like this one. Identify your station, immediately. 10.28, immediately. Okay, continuing with the serious stuff. Engine manual. So there was a picture there, and it's a bit different than on my cat, so I just made a note that fuel filters and fuel water separators are on the driver's side. Okay, it was the same on the cat, but oil filters and the starter are on the passenger side of the engine. On mine it was not like that. On mine, starter was basically right next to the clutch. Yeah, on the driver's side, like deep in, you had to look in. Okay, change intervals. I wrote down here. Fuel tank ventilation filter. Yeah, the fuel tank has this ventilation thing. Every 12 months you gotta replace that. Coolant. And I checked my spec sheet. I don't know if I have extended life coolant, because my sheet says long life coolant. I don't know if does that qualify as regular or extended, because regular coolant you gotta change every 300,000 miles or 24 months, or if it's extended, then it's, I think it's much longer, basically like 5 years, I think. Okay, coolant filter. I did not know there was a filter in the coolant system, so you gotta replace that filter 50,000 miles or every 6 months. On a regular, with the regular coolant. Okay, first time I gotta adjust the valves and injectors after 125,000 miles, so I think after 1 year. And after that, it's every 2 years or 200,000 miles. Okay, drive belts must be replaced after 3 years or 300,000 miles. DEF tank should be cleaned after 150,000 miles. DEF pump filter should be changed after 150,000 miles, and DPF, the filter, diesel particulate filter, should be cleaned every 250,000 miles. And my coolant in my truck, I just wrote down for myself. It's you know, the make and model, so to speak. It's Texaco. Sorry, it's getting really hot in here. Texaco Long Life number 7998. Oh, and it's good up to minus 37 Celsius. I don't know why I wrote here F. So minus 37 Celsius. So if I'm somewhere like in Alberta, you know, and it's minus 45, I can be in trouble. Now my batteries are MACK batteries, and they have 1000 CCA, which is good, so they're pretty strong batteries. And I do have engine block heater because I was not sure, and then I checked my spec sheet. Okay, fuel. So they say, okay, only ultra low sulfur diesel fuel, of course. Number 2 is preferred. Number 1 can be used in winter, or it's probably better to use a combination of number 1 and number 2 because in cold weather, because anytime you use number 1, your fuel mileage will go down. And they recommend to fill the tank at the end of the driving day, and basically try to keep the tank full, especially when it's cold, right? Don't drive around with, or don't leave the truck with almost empty tank, because you can be in trouble. Cetane, or it's probably, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, cetane number, basically 43 minimum. You guys will, I'm pretty sure there'll be some guys correcting me, right? CETANE. In cold weather, higher this cetane number may be required. Now additives, they don't recommend, but the only 2 that they say are okay is either this, the one that improves your fuel number, the cetane number, or treatment for water, because if you have water in fuel, it can freeze, right? And then also say that you can use these biocides, BIOCIDE, to kill bacteria in fuel. And then I started reading the engine manual, and I think in I don't know, was this the previous stuff? No, I think it was in the engine manual as well, not the truck manual. And again, they say they don't recommend all these commercially available additives that are widely, you know, marketed, because they say they can cause damage and preliminary wear and tear of the engine and components. But they do say that isopropyl alcohol can be used as anti-gel, and just use 1 pint or 450 ml per 125 gallons. And again, this biocide they mention to kill bacteria. And here in the engine manual they say nothing about kerosene, whereas in the truck manual they say, hey, kerosene is okay, use it just a small amount for anti-gel purposes. So I don't know. And then I also checked, because on my cat equipped truck I always had to drain that, open the tap at the bottom of the primary fuel filter near the windshield. Otherwise in cold weather there was always problems, you know, because it can freeze and then it blocks your fuel supply. And I checked here, and it turns out they have a special sensor. There's a sensor right above the speedometer on a big multi-unit, multi-function display. There's a little sensor with a pump picture, and if that thing, like a gauge, right? If that thing lights up, that means that you have water in this primary fuel filter, and you gotta drain it. So beautiful. You don't have to do it every day, even though in the other spot in the manual they say, oh, drain daily. Oh, really? I tried that first, and all you see is fuel. So you don't have it every day. And I'm glad that they have these light, you know. But do drain air tanks daily. And on my truck, those are right under the driver's door, whereas in the Cat you had to climb under the sleeper, and they were on both sides, and I just used one on the passenger side, the wet tank. Okay, lubrication. They say 15,000 miles for regular service and 10,000 for heavy use in extreme weather, like dust and stuff like that. So I'm shooting for 15,000 miles now, whereas with my international, I was doing grease every 7,500 miles. I mean 7,500 miles. Here I can extend it by 2, by the factor of 2. So 15,000 miles. And then oil change, the most important thing, right? They give you a table, just like my CAT book was based on your fuel mileage. And basically, if anything above 6 miles per gallon, of course US is considered normal service, and you can change oil every 35,000 miles. Anything below 6 but above 4.7 miles per gallon, that's considered heavy service, and you have to change your oil every 25,000 miles. And anything below 4.7 and above 3.7, that's severe service, and then you have to change your oil every 15,000 miles. And that's what I did on my international. I changed oil every 15,000. Here on the CAT, that's only for severe application. So I think I'm pretty sure I'll be above 6 most of the time, unless I'm really heavy. So above 6, 35,000 miles interval, right? Below 6, 25. So I think I'll compromise with 30,000 and do oil change every 30,000 miles, and then every 15,000 miles I'll be doing lubrication, which is great. So let's say I do lubrication and oil change. The next 15,000 miles I only do lubrication, and next another 15,000 miles I do lubrication oil change. You know, so because they have to be, you cannot do it 15 and 35 or something, or 15 and 25. They have to be, you know, compatible, right? For me before it was 7,500, 15,000. So this is cool, and that's what I made a note here. So I'm going to change oil every 30,000 miles and lubrication every 15,000 miles. And that's it. So sorry for the dry text, but that's what it is. Now the last book I have to read, which scares the heck out of me because it's it's this one. Electronic VMAC, Vehicle Management and Control with Co-Pilot Display. So basically that's your computer, and it's a really serious stuff because you can, it's warnings, you know. It's all the switches, and all the switches on the dash, and you can probably set up some custom functions, you know. Like for example, I already know that there's one function here you can set up automatically that the truck keeps running. Even when you stop and you lock the doors and you leave and you take the key, you can program the computer with through these options to run for 3 minutes. You know, if you don't want to sit in the truck, wait till the turbo and everything cools down, you just activate this feature, boom, you turn off the engine, like you take the key out, you go, and the truck will run for 3 minutes and then shut down. Like there's a whole bunch of automatic options here, and it's really, really important. It's not a big booklet, just 120 pages. That's going to be on my reading list either today or tomorrow. So thanks for watching. Be safe.